Ankh and Ma'at. It is wonderful to be back here with you. We ran a little bit behind schedule. I must apologize for that. I want to restore Ma'a with you and also say dua for your patience. Welcome to Kemetic Ascension for today is September 11th, 2022. Very interesting. You know that the Shrine of Ma'at is based in Harlem. So clearly, the things that occurred on this day 21 years ago affected Anika and myself as well. And so while we are no longer mourning in the way that other people are doing, today is September 11th, and we also lost friends in the bombing of the World Trade Center. And so it's funny because I'm just thinking about this as I'm speaking. It's just pouring out of me. But I used to work in World Trade Center right after college. And so we just say that we recognize that many souls were lost that day. And hopefully we'll be able to move forward in a way where everyone will find peace. So let me just welcome you once again to Kemetic Ascension for September 11th, 2022. Brought to you by the Shrine of Ma'at. My name is Heru Jedin Ma'at Aten Ra, also known as Jabari Osaze. That's my government name, Jabari Osaze. And in the back running tech, you'll see Anika Daniels, Dr. Anika Daniels Osaze in a few moments. And definitely she'll come up and yes, also known as Mfrakama. She's mouthing to me. Please say my Kemetic name, she's saying. She'll come forward and we'll do the opening the way in a moment. But before we do that, you know that we always look to see where you are in the world and for how long you have been part of Kemetic Ascension. Those are the two questions we ask at the onset of every Kemetic Ascension. And we're asking that again. Please tell us where you are and how long you have been part of Kemetic Ascension. We truly are honored that so many of you every other Sunday choose to spend your time with us, choose to make the Shrine of Ma'at part of your spiritual journey. We're honored that you do that. And I should just say that we are so pleased that we're able to continue to bring you Kemetic Ascension. Hopefully there will be a time shortly that we'll be able to allow people in for Kemetic Ascension again. We're talking about those things as we speak. So please, I hope we have some answers.
We have Keisha Johnson. Let us know where you're from.
Ankh and Ma'at, Sanet Keisha.
Sanet Koche is here with us, one of our members.
One of our full members, Ankh and Ma'at to Koche, Sanet Koche, out in that amazing city, Detroit.
We have Brother Kwame Owusu.
Ankh and Ma'at.
Remind us where you're from. And we have Sen Coben out in Flint, Michigan.
Wonderful, Ankh and Ma'at.
We have Divinely Black. Tell us where you're from.
That's a great name.
We have the Big Payback Porter out in Hobart, Indiana.
I have heard that name before, the Big Payback Porter. When did we communicate last? I believe it was recent. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
We have DZ Ankh out in Buffalo.
DZ Ankh and Ma'at to New York, upstate in Buffalo. Good to hear that you're there.
We have Sanet Cheryl from the DMV with us 5 years.
Sanet Cheryl is one of our most active members. We used to see her quite a bit, but this blasted pandemic doesn't seem to want to end. So it's good to hear that you're out there. Hopefully we'll see you soon, Sanet Cheryl.
We also have Sen Gavin out in the DMV.
Sen Gavin?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, Sen Gavin. Yes, Sen Gavin. I didn't. Listen, man, you know I almost never get any sleep before Kemetic Ascension. Ankh and Ma'at to Sen Gavin, one of our full members out in the DMV. It's good to hear that you're with us, dear brother.
Yes, and that's Tashi out in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes, I think, you know what it is? I'm not hearing you clearly because folks outside are beginning to play loud music. You know, this is one of the things that happen when you live in the hood. When we say we live in Harlem, some of you who have been to the shrine know that when we say we live in Harlem, right? You know what I mean? So That's what's happening.
Let's see. We have, so Keisha Johnson's from Philly.
Wonderful. Ankin Ma'at to you. That's just a stone's throw away. Anika and I love Philly. We used to go to Philly several times a month, and since the pandemic, we just have been there very infrequently. So we love Philly. Hopefully, we'll be there soon.
We have Kakuro from Germany.
Wow, have we had anyone from Germany before?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember that. Ankin Ma'at to you and welcome all the way from across the waters in Germany. That is the furthest place that we are hearing someone from thus far today.
We have Vonda out in Greenville, South Carolina, who started tuning in summer of 2021.
Ankin Ma'at, so it's been a full year. I hope that it has been edifying for you, Ankin Ma'at.
And Brandon Moore from Indiana.
Ankin Ma'at, one of our full members.
Yes. We have WNPTV Global Media out in Savannah, Georgia.
Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at.
Haruka Okofu.
Did you say that name before? I thought you did.
No, it's another name.
Oh, Ankin Ma'at.
Ankara Patasen. Tell us where you're from.
Ankin Ma'at. Okofu sounds like it's either tree or Fonte. No?
Let us know.
Ankin Ma'at.
Let's see. So Kakuro says that he's been part of this spiritual journey for a year or so out in Germany.
Wonderful. Ankin Ma'at to you. Ankin Ma'at to you.
And Coach, let's see. Sinet Rael out in Illinois with us for 2 years.
Ankin Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at to you. One of our full members. Ankin Ma'at.
We have MC Douglas from St. Louis with us for 2 weeks.
Wonderful, Ankin Ma'at. It's good to hear that the community of Kemetic Ascension is growing. Ankin Ma'at to you.
Noble Lloyd out in Brooklyn with us for 2 years or so.
The BK, not far. Ankin Ma'at. It's good to hear that you're out there. Ankin Ma'at.
Then Jason Holmes out in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Ankin Ma'at. Send Jason Holmes, one of our full members, and a history buff like myself. I miss our historical conversations, Sen Jason. So hopefully we'll get to chop it up soon.
We have Sen Heru Assad Ankh Amunra. Let me get it right. Out in Dallas, Texas. That's for 3 years.
Ankin Ma'at to you.
There's Sen Rich Douglas, another full member.
Ankin Ma'at. Sen Rich, how are you? Out in Queens. He's not far from us. Ankin Ma'at, Sen Rich. Hope all is well. He also traveled to Kemet with us this year. I'm wondering if you've processed your trip yet, if you've thought about all the things you've seen yet, because I know that he was having a good time. Anika and I would just be a little far away. We'd say, look at Sen Rich enjoying himself. All the guys over there just talking and laughing. So I know he had a good time. Ankin Ma'at to you.
Yeah, so that Cortia, she's been with us for 2 to 3 years.
Ankin Ma'at.
Atlanta.
Ankin Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at.
One of our full members. We have Dwight Carter out in Cleveland, Ohio, with us for a year strong.
Ankin Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at. Hope that this has been a year. Oh, excellent. Excellent.
We have Heru Jehuti Patah Umika Temra.
Ankin Ma'at. That is a very complex name. I love it. Go ahead.
Home in Oakland.
Ankin Ma'at.
Looking forward to seeing you in Arizona.
Oh, wonderful. Ankin Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at. We will be in Arizona the weekend of October 2nd. So Ankin Ma'at to you.
Divinely Black is repping Chicago.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Chi-Town in the house. The home of yoga skills and the house of Hotep, as our dear brother Yasira Hotep describes it, someone we're very close to. I think he's still in Brazil, though. I don't think he's back in Chicago yet. And of course, we have a very, very influential and active member there, too, Sen Aten. So, yes, Ankin Ma'at to you.
We have Sen Gaston out in Arizona.
Ankin Ma'at, Sen Gaston Bryant.
Looking for you next month.
Yes, Ankin Ma'at, we'll see you soon.
We have Brother Kenneth Sims out in Mobile, Alabama. New to the group.
Ankh and Ma'at, Mobile, Alabama. I don't think we often hear folks from Mobile, a major city, a black city. Mobile is a black city, as far as I know. Ankh and Ma'at.
And we have OG Jehuti Best the Fourth,
who I had the opportunity to see yesterday. Listen, I'm telling you, Jehuti Mess and I have been together for many years. Since he was this big, now he's this big. I'm still the same size. He just grew. He grew like. But you should know he's one of my favorite people in the world. He always has been. And I went downstairs to go pick something up. Jabari was cheating, had some dessert delivered. And who was riding by on his electric bike? Was it not Jehuti Mess? It was really good seeing him. We got to schedule some time to chop it up and go get some food this week. Good to see you. Good to see you. It was a happy, pleasant surprise to just see him riding by at that time.
We have Sinette Lady Het Davis, another full member.
Ankh and Ma'at to you, Lady Het Davis. I sometimes peek at her Facebook page and her great pictures. Ankh and Ma'at.
Sinette Kawanda, who also traveled with us for the second time.
Sinette Kawanda, I would love for her to be, I'm going to just put her on blast, a full initiated member of the Shrine. We're very close to her. We've had so much fun in Kemet and Ghana with her. She's one of our folks that we love to chop it up with. Anika and Kawanda just be starting trouble when they're in Ghana, always starting trouble. So, you know, we're glad that you're there. We're so glad that you're there.
We have Sinette Yashiraya Sakina Ra.
Yes, Sinette Sakina Ra, another full member, a recent member. I just noticed an email from you yesterday. I have not responded yet. We'll talk.
This is rep in Colorado, by the way.
She moved. I don't think she was in Colorado when she initiated. I know she moved. And I did not remember where she moved to. So it's Colorado now. That's all the way on the other side of the country. Wonderful. The Shrine of Ma'at is trying to do more towards the west side, the west coast of the United States. So certainly we should be talking. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
And I want to say Tomahu for the donations coming in. So Tomahu from Andre Bryant, and Andre Bryant, we truly appreciate you. Also want to say happy solo return to one of our priests, Abuka.
Yes, I just was looking to see that he's not going to be in priesthood training because his family is taking him out. I wish I could be a fly on the wall and just see that with his beautiful kids and his wonderful wife. Ankh and Ma'at to Abuka. I don't know if he's on right now, but Abuka is one of the priests of the Shrine of Ma'at. We should give him celebrations on his solar return. I don't believe it was today, though. I think it was like a day ago or something like that. And it wasn't until I saw his message that I remembered, wait, his birthday is before. Anyway, Ankh and Ma'at to you. My brain is random today. It feels like I'm thinking of like 8 things at the same time. Does it feel like I'm thinking of 8 things at the same time? Okay.
Seems random.
Okay, thank you. You were supposed to say, oh no, dear. No randomness in your thinking and your performance today. She's like, yes, it's random, yes.
We have Brother Philip Baines. Welcome. That's where you're from.
Welcome, welcome.
And Robert J's out in London, UK. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. You should know that Samnetter and I are plotting to come to the UK. Believe it or not, part of that conversation is also Garfield. You know, he and I have, if you've followed what's going on Samnetter, he and I have had a rocky relationship, but he's part of the conversation as well, that we may come to the UK sometime soon. So something to talk about. Hopefully we'll be able to see you.
Okay. And we have a Facebook user, doesn't have a name, but they're repping Harlem.
Who's repping Harlem? You need to let us know who's repping Harlem.
Sinette Shenka is here with us.
Sinette Shenka, Ankh and Ma'at from the DMV area, right? Shenka is in the DMV area. Pretty sure she is. Ankh and Ma'at, one of our very active members as well, did lots of great work on the last Heb Keperu, the celebration for those initiates that had just come through. We miss you. We hope we see you soon again, too.
We have Son Larry Jackson out in Daytona Beach, Florida. Good to see you again.
Ankh and Ma'at, good to see you again. I remember that name.
Ma'at Raja Huti Hetep out in Detroit, Michigan.
I don't know if I remember that name, but Ankh and Ma'at to you. That's a powerful name, and hopefully we'll see you as we go. Hopefully we'll be back in Detroit soon. I was talking about doing a lecture there. I need to follow up on that. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
And Kwame Owusu says that he grew up in Newark, New Jersey.
Wait, why did you say it that way? Like I had asked where he was at?
Yes.
Oh, see, I'm all over the place. No, I thought it was it Owusu or Kofu?
Oh, Kofu.
Yeah, see, I'm not all over the place. Anika is intentionally convincing me because I'm the one in front of the camera, so she could laugh. That's what's happening.
Oh, Okofu is actually out in Arizona.
Okofu, can you tell us about your name? Please tell us about your name, Okofu particularly. It sounds like it's Tree to me, Tree or Fonte. So I'm just wondering if you could tell us something about your name.
We have Sinette Lisa Attaway. Good to see you.
Ankh and Ma'at, one of our full members, Ankh and Ma'at.
We have Lorenzo in Tucson, Arizona.
Ankh and Ma'at, a bunch of folks in Arizona.
Yeah, they're looking for you.
We'll be there soon.
Master Self out in Mobile, Alabama. So there's more.
Another Mobile, Alabama. Wonderful.
And Rich Douglas says yes so much.
He enjoyed himself. Good. We
have Sekhmet Boss from South Africa.
Ankh and Ma'at. I can't say that we've heard that name before, although we have had folks from South Africa on Kemetic Ascension before. I think South Africa is further than Germany. So that is the person that's the furthest away from us. Ankh and Ma'at, and welcome. Sekhmet Bast, wonderful name.
And we have Tahuti Heka Kapara. Welcome.
Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Sinette Newt is here with us.
Ankh and Ma'at.
So Sen Lorenzo asked, where will you be in Arizona and how do I attend?
It's a weekend of activities, and we actually are going to be opening an outpost, I guess we could call it, of the Shrine of Ma'at in Arizona. So we'll be posting it on our Facebook stuff this week. So please, you're probably on our Facebook stuff. You'll see it soon. Yeah, and if you see Sen Tahuti Forever, he's one of the folks he's the chief organizer of that event. So if he's in here, link up with him. He's in Phoenix, Arizona. That's where we're going to be. Or as we call it, Bennu. You may not know, I think you may know this, but the Bennu is actually the original Phoenix. The concept of the Phoenix is a Kemetic one. And when the Greeks got to Kemet, they were enamored by the mythological structure of the concept of the Bennu, and they called it Phoenix. So it is literally Kemetic. But we didn't call it Phoenix, we called it the Bennu bird that burst into fire, destroying itself, but then being left behind as its newest form to grow old and more powerful again.
We have Sharice Clement from Cleveland. Welcome.
Ankh and Ma'at to you.
We have Dean Berry Sensi Nehanda. Tell us where you're from.
Ankh and Ma'at.
Joanne Jahi Adisa. Good to see you again.
Ankh and Ma'at.
And Lady Het Davis says, I'm from Colorado and was there when I was initiated.
Were you? Why did I think you moved? So you didn't move? Why did I not connect you to Colorado? I'm not sure why I didn't connect you to Colorado, Lady Het Davis. It's not like I don't know who you are. I forgot where you were, though. That's what it is. Ankh and Ma'at. Didn't realize you were all the way in Colorado. That's cool.
We have User Heru Ma'at from St. Lucia.
Oh, St. Lucia, wonderful. Ankh and Ma'at, a place that I have wanted to visit many times and have not gotten to.
Nia Malika out in Phoenix, Arizona.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. I think we know Nia Malika. Ankh and Ma'at.
Kemet Don I, representing Barbados.
Wonderful. Ankh and Ma'at.
We have Minnie Williams out in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Oruko Olorun out in Wilson, North Carolina.
I think I know that name. Maybe we've connected before. Olorun. Yeah.
Olorun.
Yeah. It's a Yoruba name. Ankh and Ma'at.
Kelly Sarah or Sekou in Canada.
Ankh and Ma'at to the country north of us.
Ma'atin Walker in Las Vegas.
Ankh and Ma'at out in Vegas. Hopefully I'll be out in Vegas sometime in early February.
We have Crow McKeever out in North Carolina.
Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Kamau Shakur out in Humble, Texas.
Ankh and Ma'at, Humble, Texas. We always get a lot of folks from Texas. Today that seems like the first person from Texas though.
There's Setem Hotep Ma'akeru.
Ankh and Ma'at. Is it me or are there a lot of people on today?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. Ankh and Ma'at.
Let's see. And Kwame Wilson says, yeah, it's tree.
It's tree,
Yeah.
right. Did he tell us what it means? Come on, brother. Send Kwame, you gotta tell us what it means. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Tell Jabari to figure it out. He's taking classes right now.
I'm not taking tree classes though. I'm taking Ponte. Thank you very much.
He knows though. Make him do his homework.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
Yeah, so that Anike out in the Gambia.
Ankh and Ma'at to you, Sunette, one of our very active members, repping the Gambia. I think the Gambia is still a little closer to us than South Africa, but that is certainly far away. Ankh and Ma'at to you, Sunette Adenike.
Ronald Green out in Alton, Illinois.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
And Andre, we see you out in South Jersey, Philly. Again, thank you for your donation.
Ankh and Ma'at, always with us. Ankh and Ma'at.
We have Menchu Hotep Heru Ma'at Set Ra Ankh Amen out in Louisiana.
Wow. That's a long name. Ankh and Ma'at.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's Sen Daniel Roche is with us.
Ankh and Ma'at to you, our dear brother Daniel Roche, who's traveled with us, who we communicate with regularly. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Yeah.
One of our good brothers, another Cornell grad as well.
And we have Diani from Kenya.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
And I think that's it. Brother Owusu says it means strong-willed and determined.
Dwa. Dwa, dwa, dwa.
Oh, I see G. Maurice Jones is also in the house. Ankh and Ma'at.
Ankh and Ma'at.
We have a lot of people here.
It's a lot of people on today. Ankh and Ma'at to you all.
Wonderful.
Are we prepared to do the opening? You know that there will be many of you who we will not call just simply because you'll be adding where you are and how long you've been part of Kemetic Ascension after the broadcast ends. But we want you to still know where you are, because it's truly important for us to recognize, understand how far and wide the traditions of ancient Africa are reaching. And so we want to say welcome to you all, Dwa, for spending a portion of your Sunday with us. And you probably know, many of you have been part of Kemetic Ascension for some time, that we always begin Kemetic Ascension with the ceremony, with the ritual that our shrine elder, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samad Se Ptah, created. I always say reassembled, because in many ways, the ceremony, the ritual itself didn't exist in the ancient world, but all of the principles that are placed together fit together and come from the ancient world. Someone from ancient Kemet mystically coming into the modern day and seeing us do this would understand what we're doing. That is how connected to the ancient traditions it is. And so we say Dwa again, thank you to our shrine elder and the keeper of the shrine of Ptah and the studio of Ptah, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samad Se Ptah. So let's do our opening. You know that we stand in the position of adoration. You're going to put your left foot forward like you're taking a stride, just a slight stride. You don't have to open it too wide. Then you're going to take your hands, raise them, and expose the palms in front of you. As you expose your palms in front of you, you're going to put the left hand just a little further forward. You're going to put the right hand a little further back, and you can put it a little bit lower than the left hand. Do not break your wrist extensively. It's not like this. If you break them, it's ever so slightly, or you can even keep them straight. From here, what we'll do is we'll breathe. Take a deep breath into your abdomen. Don't breathe here, breathe here. And then what you'll do is you will, I'm making motions apparently, and the camera, come back this way. The camera.
The camera just likes me better.
No, I think that there's something that I did that is telling it to move. Anyway, as we are Did you see it stay where it was?
Say it likes me better.
As we, we have a robotic camera now, and I don't know how to use it. Can you tell that it doesn't really like to? Oh, goodness. It still is really focused on her. It really is focused on her. Anyway, what am I saying? What we're going to do is we're going to breathe into our abdomen and chant the word for divine everlasting life. Ankh. And when you chant it, don't chant it from here. Chant it from here. It is a nasal sound in this instance because we're drawing energy from here up into here. Let's go.
Anetrak in bed het.
Anetrak in bed het.
Nuke in bed
Nuke
het.
in bed het. Anetrak happy.
Anetrak happy.
Nuke happy.
Nuke happy.
Twal winter.
Twal winter.
Make your turn, your 90-degree turn.
Anetrak serket.
Anetrak serket.
Nuke serket.
Nuke serket. Anetrak keb senu.
Anetrak keb senu.
Nuke keb senu.
Nuke keb senu.
Twal winter.
Twal winter. Anetrak as.
Anetrak as.
Nuke as.
Nuke as. Anetrak amset.
Anetrak amset.
Nuke amset.
Nuke amset.
Twal winter.
Twal winter.
Make another turn.
Anetrak neat.
Anetrak neat.
Nuke neat.
Nuke neat. Anetrak dwa mutef.
Anetrak dwa mutef.
Nuke dwa mutef.
Nuke dwa mutef.
Twal winter.
Twal winter. Anetrak newt.
Anetrak newt.
Nuke newt.
Nuke newt. Anetrak geb.
Anetrak geb.
Nuke geb.
Nuke geb.
Twal winter. Anetrak shoe.
Anetrak shoe.
Shoe. Shoe. Shoe. Shoe. Nuke shoe.
Anetrak tefnut.
Anetrak tefnut. 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 Nuke tefnut. Twal winter. Anetrak paut in teru. Nuke paut in teru. Anetrak and boo in teru. Nuke and boo in teru. Twal winter. Twal winter. Dwa, 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 dwa. The opening the way is quite the important ceremony. And I'm truly hoping that you will continue to do the opening of the way. It will be an important part of your practice. And hopefully you'll recognize that it is that ceremony that celebrates your divinity, that celebrates that you are imbued with infinite power because you are the divine. Before you do anything of importance, you should do the opening of the way because it reminds you just how powerful you are. So, at this part of our gathering, we go into Hesi. And of course, you probably know, Hesi is how our ancient African ancestors in the Hopi Valley region celebrated the divine force in harmony, in chanting, in song, in affirmation. In many ways, we could consider it Kemetic gospel. Before the word gospel was ever issued, this is the sound that folks in that region would have recognized was their ability to come into worship, into celebration, into adoration in song. And so today we bring you Hesi. Anika, what are we doing today?
It's called Take This Ka.
Take This Ka?
From
Wonderful.
the Shakers out in Ghana.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So this is from that wonderful couple out in Dodowa, Ghana. They're moving to Kemet for a few weeks, actually months, for a few months to actually do a residency there, which is amazing. But we are excited that they're having success, and we're excited that they assisted so greatly with this album. This is one of the tracks called Take This Ka. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Oh, great one who became sky, Almighty One, there is none like you. Every place is filled with your beauty. You possess the whole of the earth as it is stretched beneath you. You adorn the earth and all the things in your arms. Please take this God you to be an indestructible start within you. Oh, great one who became sky. Every place is filled with your beauty. Oh, strong one who gives strength from on high. Every place is filled with your beauty. Almighty One, there is none like you. Every place is filled with your beauty. You possess the whole of the earth as it is stretched beneath you. You adorn the earth and all the things in your arms. Please take this God you to be an indestructible start within you. Please take this God you to be an indestructible start within you.
Behold, I have appeared in glory. I am strong. I am pure and mighty.
Please take this God you.
I have brought oil and incense with truth
Please take this God you.
reach the New Year.
Please take this God you. Please take this God you. Please take this God you. Please take this God you to be an indestructible start within you. Oh, great one who became so mighty one, there is none like. Every place is filled with your beauty. Every place is filled with your beauty. Oh, strong one who gives strength from on high. Mighty one, there is none like. Every place is filled with your beauty.
Please take this God to be an indestructible start within me.
Please take this God you.
To be an indestructible start within you.
Please take this God you.
That's beautiful, is it not? That's beautiful. I think it's a wonderful song that was written by the Schaefers and performed by the Schaefers. They really put together a wonderful Hesse. I love it. And you should know the album is still available. You can purchase copies of it. You can also stream it on every streaming service. And so it's really important that you get access to it. I always mess up the name. It's Kemetic Meditations.
Temple Music Volume
Temple
1.
Music Volume 1. It's the subtitle I always mess up. Temple Music Volume 1. So please know that it is a wonderful, wonderful collaboration. It's wonderful. Please listen to it. Okay. All right. So at this point in our gathering, we go into a word from the Sibait. The Sibait is the wisdom literature of ancient Kemet. It's the world's first body of literature, actually, the first genre of literature. The oldest texts come from it. But today I want to say that I want to talk about something that I spoke about on Sonnetter's platform on Friday. I gave this a lot of thought. I don't usually talk about the same topic in both places because there's a different purpose of our gathering here. And I never want to get it confused. The energy of Sonnetter, as if some of you are not familiar, can sometimes be really rugged. And that's just not what we do here for our services in the shrine. But I gave this a lot of thought and thought about this particular topic because in many ways, the conversation is about us. The conversation that I had on Friday is about us. What am I referring to? I want you to be aware of the fact that there are those that say that we claim we're following ancient African traditions, but this entire tradition was given to us by the Tomahu, given to us by Europeans. That is what they have said. And I want you to know that there is a documentary known as Unspoken that is traveling around the country. In fact, the way we found out about it is that two folks that we know who are Christian, who attend church, some of our friends, called and said, I didn't know Jabari was in another documentary. We said, what do you mean? Well, there's a documentary Unspoken. They showed it at my church. They don't live in the same state. This documentary is making the rounds. Did they tell me that they used me in the documentary? No. No. Because they would like to say that they are speaking to their people. Well, let me say something to you. Your people, ardent church followers, are our people. We may not agree on the traditions that we are part of, but clearly your people are our people. Our people are your people. There are things that we disagree on, but we're talking about the same group. And as you look at some of what they did, it should be clear why they might not have wanted us to know. So I want to let you know about this documentary. Trust me, some of you probably have family members that are already talking about it. If you've had family members or friends that have told you about this documentary, let us know in the chat. The documentary is known, as I said, as Unspoken. And this is an image from the landing page from the documentary. More on that in a second. The website says that this documentary is an in-depth look into the Christian heritage of Africa and people of African descent, intended to dispel the notion of Christianity being an exclusively white man's religion. That's the aim of the documentary. I didn't write that, they wrote that. And I want you to know that in many ways, this is supposed to be, and I won't call it an attack, but it's supposed to be a rejoinder. It's supposed to be a response to us. If you recognize the landing page and this image of this beautiful African, richly melanated African sister that has this thing over her mouth, I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, that Africans weren't able to speak about their Christian heritage. Bizarre way to image it. Can you see the writings, the images, the symbols behind her? What are those? What are those? What are they trying to say in just the imagery of the landing page? Do we have answers?
Not yet.
I wonder if you can recognize what they're trying to say. Understand the landing page is a rejoinder to those who connect themselves to ancient Kemet and its traditions.
St. Jason says cuneiform.
Of course, St. Jason says cuneiform, because he is the history buff like me. He was also on that conversation at Sonnetter. He was there. I saw him in the chat. We communicated.
St. Daniel Roche is trying to show bliss but cuneiform.
Why cuneiform? The reason why they have cuneiform is because it was the writing form of the area of of Sumer. The writing form that first came forward in Sumer. And you might not know this, but many folks who are in the Christian tradition, particularly people of African descent, are really cleaving to Sumer right now. Why? Because the Bible says that Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees. I want you to understand that that phrase, Ur of the Chaldees, is an anachronism. You might have heard me say this before. It's like saying Jabari lived in Harlem of the Manhattan. First of all, you should know, yes, Anika and I do live in Harlem. The Shrine of Ma'at is based in Harlem, but recognize that Harlem is a Dutch word for a city that exists currently. Manhattan is the name of the Native American people who once inhabited this area. But if you say that I move around in Harlem of the Manhattan, anyone who knows the history would say something's wrong with you. Can't put those two things together. They are hundreds of years apart. Well, they've done something interesting here as well. When they say Chaldees or Chaldea, that land wasn't known of Chaldea when it was known as Ur, when it was under the Sumer, people of Sumer. So right off the bat, the biblical description of where Abraham came from falls apart. By the way, you should know that biblical historians have long said Abraham, if there was a historical Abraham, they question that. Biblical historians, not Jabari Osaze, biblical historians, they say that that is not accurate. It's not a historical description of the origin of their tradition. They've said this for a long time. But the reason why they have this here is because there are those that say that Sumer is older than Kemet. So when they cleave to Sumer, it is supposed to be a response to you. The landing page is supposed to be a message. I guarantee you that 99.9% of the Christians who saw this don't pick that up. This is speaking to you, Kemet, to you, Remech, to you, the people who are enamored by and are practicing the traditions of ancient Kemet. And they continue to speak very clearly about us. Now, you know, Jabari has had some pointed conversations, some difficult conversations with many groups of people. They gonna put me in the video. But I want you to understand they're not really just talking about me. They're talking about us. Take a listen. I want you to listen to a clip from the documentary known as, oh wait, before I go into the documentary, I want to show you this. I keep forgetting that I wanted to do this first. Take a look at this. This is also in their website, on their website. It looks to me like it comes from Pew Research. It's not cited, but this is usually how Pew Research's info demographics look. This is also the reason why they created Unspoken. And I want you to understand that what they're saying is they are concerned that there are many African Americans who are no longer part of the Christian tradition. That's what they're saying. Look at millennial affiliation. You can see here, 30% of African American millennials claim to be nuns, that they're not part of a spiritual tradition. And if you look on the lower left-hand side, I'm sorry?
Clear on what they mean by nuns.
Nuns, yes, that's what I just said. Those who are not part of a spiritual tradition.
Yeah, they're not nuns as in the Catholic nuns.
Oh no, it says nuns on the screen, N-O-N-E-S. It's small, it's too small to read, I'm sorry. It says the nuns. 52% of Americans identify as nuns. They don't identify as nuns, okay? This is how they're trying to describe it. Atheist, agnostic, or religiously unaffiliated. And you can see that those people who Pew Research are describing the nuns have been growing. 18% in 2007, 23% in 2016, and 52% in 2021. This is why they created this documentary, because they're concerned that there are fewer brown booties in pews in Black communities. They're concerned that there are fewer brown booties in pews in Black communities. In fact, if you look on the lower left, it says, what are college students saying about Christianity? The middle piece says it's the white man's or oppressor's religion. This is what they're responding to. So they believe that as African people, people of African descent in the United States awaken, they're no longer going to be looking towards Christianity. That is why they put this documentary together. Concern that their numbers are thinning. By the way, that's also the reason why they didn't tell me I was in it, and why they're not talking publicly to anyone other than Christians about it. Because this is supposed to be either recruiting or retention propaganda. That's what it is. That's what it is. So look at a clip of this documentary so you get a sense of what they're saying about you, practitioner of ancient African traditions. Take a listen. What are they going to say? They're saying that you got this. That's the male. That you got this. I don't know why you're telling me. We got to go pick it up though. That we got this from Europeans. That is what they're going to be arguing. That it is the European that gave us ancient Kemet. That it is, as they call them, 19th century mystics that gave you Kemet. That's what they're going to say. And in many ways, what they're saying is quite offensive to ancestor scholars above my weight class. We're talking about Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, and Dr. John Henry Clark. I want you to see what they say about them. I want you to see what they are commenting on, because remember, this ain't about Jabari Osaze. This is about you. Are you ready? Anika, we're waiting for you. So let's take a look at the commentary that you will see in this documentary. Let's go. Is the tradition of Kemet the original form? Yes. But just as if you have a copy of a copy of a copy, it loses its clarity and focus. Just as it becomes filtered through the traditions of other nations and other peoples, it loses its clarity and focus. So carbon copy, no, but copy, yes.
There's a great deal of pseudo scholarship in the conscious world. I mean, when you read conscious literature, whatever is promoted, you really have to double and triple check the sources.
Let's be really clear about something here. The Christian tradition is not a carbon copy of the Kemetic tradition. In fact, what we see is a tradition that is filtered, stolen, then filtered through the social mores of another group of people.
Christianity. Therefore, it was practicing and not giving it a name. This is why you don't know nothing about the African origins of Christianity. It's a farce. It was only a farce, a lie. You want a lie? A lie is a lie. The African origins of the major Western religions. Africa, mother of Western civilization, a black man of the Nile.
This is a copy family, a poor copy. The things that you hear and that you love are actually the echo of something that your African foreparents gave you.
The copycat objections of the conscious community, basically, theirs come from a group of 19th century mystics. One of those mystics is the mother of the conscious community, Helena Blavatsky. Helena Blavatsky was born, I believe, in 1831. And what's interesting about Helena Blavatsky is she began believing that she was getting her understanding of life and truth from these spiritual. It's a whole situation. But her, Gerald C., and then later on is Albert Boyd Kuhn. Those are three of the spiritual parents of the conscious community, all white European people. And so they call us Christianity, the white man's religion, but all of their forefathers even admitted by John Henry Clark in the debate he did a huge debate, basically, of him admitting these people helped start Afrocentrism as we know it today.
So I began to read European masterpieces. And I began to read European curiosity about Africa. Gerald Massey's 6 volume, Egypt, Life of the World, 2 volumes. Natural Genesis, 2 volumes. Book of the Beginning, 2 volumes. And I began to read Gerald Massey's attitude on religion and his idea that really European concepts of religion was stolen.
The irony is that a lot of these people who want to say that Christianity is a white man's religion and they want to debunk aspects of white supremacy, they only do it using European sources. They'll argue against white supremacy using white sources.
Masterpieces by white radical writers who set the black radical writers in motion. A whole lot of claims like did not make until they saw the documents in works written by Europeans.
When you look at John Henry Clark, the books like Destruction of a Civilization, Warren Williams, all those guys, Chancellor Williams, when you look at all of those, James G. Jackson, when you look at all of these different books that came out in mid-20th century, those books, they got all of their understandings of that there. So the whole copyist idea, it's a book called Who is the King of Glory? I have it in my possession. Albert Boyd, it constructed false connections between Christianity and Egyptian or Kemetic spirituality. And one of the ways that they continuously did that was utilize false creations of Christ's connection to the god Horus, the whole Osiris story. There is no historical documentation. Like they said, well, it's in the books of the dead. Well, which book of the dead? There's a bunch of them. So which ones are those? And then when you actually look into the documentations of the Egyptian books of the dead, when you look at the whole Horus parallels, when you look at the Osiris parallels, you can't find a day that he was born on December 25th. First of all, Jesus wasn't born on December 25th.
Peru is usually born on December 25th.
If Horus was born on December 25th, who? No, but Jesus wasn't. One of the things that is very, very important to understand is these people weren't even trained in history. They weren't trained in how to do history. None of them have a degree in Egyptology. They don't even have, if you look at Albert Boyd Kuhn stuff, you begin to see that he didn't source his information in anything systematically and historically that will let you know that he got them from these specific places. And so again, there are a lot of historical fallacious mistakes that the conscious community makes because it's so pushing and burdened with trying to discredit Christianity, it doesn't think objectively at times.
I want you to hear how ridiculous these statements are. By the way, the person speaking is Dr. Eric Mason. He's the pastor of Epiphany Fellowship Church in Philadelphia. I know Eric Mason. I've met him. I met him at that very debate that you see them using the smallest possible clips of my words from. The smallest possible clips. Why are they so small? Why are two of the clips me saying essentially the same thing? Because they don't want you to hear what I'm referring to, how I've come to that analysis. They want me to just give you the headline and then they fill it in themselves for you. Did you know that you got Kemet from 19th century white mystics? Did you know that? Have you heard us cite Gerald Massey? Have you heard us cite Madame Blavatsky? Have you heard us cite Alvin Boyd Kuhn? Usually in this portion of our gathering, we go directly to the Kemetic text. I'm begging your indulgence today because I think you need to know that this is what's happening. It's so bizarre that he has so many things. He says so many things and it really says nothing. By the way, one of his arguments is that these three Europeans, these three Tomahu, don't have degrees in Egyptology. Well, actually, during part of the time that they were speaking, there was no degree in Egyptology, especially nothing even resembling it in the United States. What are you saying? Some of them come forward and start talking about this immediately after enslavement. Were there lots of Black authors that were describing these things during our enslavement? I don't know. The transatlantic enslavement trade seems to put a big pause in Black authors, Anika. He says that Dr. Clark actually says that Afrocentricity was given to him by white scholars. He didn't say that. Why such a small clip so you can't see what they were saying, what we were saying? And more on this issue about who someone's degree, you should know that Dr. Eric Mason's degree is in theology. It's not in Egyptology either. So what are you saying exactly? Those people that you're referencing have studied history for their entire lives. Do you think that you are in the same weight class as Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben? How dare you speak ill of them as they are in the afterlife? Well, you know what? You placed me with them. They were both my teachers. I'm going to respond. And you might have heard me on Sonnet say that I am asking Dr. Mason to have a public discourse with me on these fallacious grounds that he has set. I really wonder whether he'll respond. I really wonder whether he'll respond. Now, let's be clear. I don't have any personal problem with Eric Mason. I think he's a decent person. I just think that he has been placed in the wrong direction by the tradition that was given to us by our enslavers. That's what I believe. I believe that our conversation will be respectful. This isn't going to be us fighting on the corner. This should be a respectful discussion about these issues. What are some of the problems with what he says? He says that Madame Blavatsky is the mother of the conscious community. What? What? Where did you get that from? By the way, he says that these people were mystics. Madame Blavatsky would probably call herself a mystic. I think that that's fair. But Alvin Boyd Kuhn and Gerald Massey? They aren't mystics at all. And you should recognize that he even goes, maybe he shows his hand here, that he's talking about faith and not about history, not about logic. He says they were inspired by demons. Demons? You went that far? They were inspired by demons? Really? Talk about religious hyperbole. Amazing. By the way, I don't think anyone has ever put images of me behind horror music before. That's pretty good. That music, it was like you would think that I was about to, Jabari's in the house, he's going to kill you. I mean, what was with the horror music? Did you see that? Amazing. Amazing. And simply because Dr. John Henry Clark read Massey doesn't mean he's the reasons why African scholars are focused on Kemet. They actually did not give you what he said accurately on the screen. More on that in a second. If you listen to what was said, you're going to hear that they use the word and instead of the word in. Yes.
So this says Jabari must learn to read the Medu Netter and learn the language and not rely on Tomahu translation.
Very interesting. Very interesting. First of all, I have never said that I don't read the Medu Netter. I said the person that reads it better is the person that just read what you said. That's what I said. I do read the Medu Netter. And you know, the funny thing is you're saying not to rely on Tomahu translations. I'm sure you're leafing through the King James Bible as we speak, dear brother. Please, before you speak, think about what you say, because your words will betray your ignorance. It does me no joy to undress you publicly, but you've asked for it. You are nude. Please leave. Let's go. You have to understand that one of the things that he's also doing, which is quite interesting, is that he says that these European folks gave us Kemet. That's possible. At least, it isn't, but that you're making that argument. You have to now tell us why that argument is valid. But you know, the funny thing is this. He doesn't even say that they're wrong. Are they wrong? You just say they're wrong. Why? Why are they wrong, Eric Mason? Why are they wrong? Isn't that really what you should be saying? If you're claiming they gave us something that has influenced Black people so much, why are they wrong? Why? His only argument is that they were inspired by demons. Really? Really? I guess Dr. Mason must know demons who told them what they did. Really? By the way, he says there's more than one book known as the Book of the Dead. Really? First of all, the Book of the Dead is an inappropriate name. You all know this, that text is known as the Reyu Empert Emheru Emger, the book of coming forth today from night. What is he saying there's more than one Book of the Dead? Is he expressing that he doesn't know what he's talking about? I think so. I really do think so. So let's continue. I want you to just get a sense of who they are. Yes.
So this wants to know if your comment about nude was a slight to Nile African.
What? My comment about nude?
You are nude.
No, I said you're nude because I've undressed you. It's a play on words, brother. When someone takes your comments and tears them apart intellectually, you can say that you've been dressed down. So I said you are now nude. Why was it a comment to Nile Valley Africans? What? No, I'm saying that your comment has been undressed and you are nude. That's what I said. I think most people who are hearing it probably do. Who was it that said that? What's his name?
Abyss.
Abyss. All of the knowledge that we're giving you have gone directly there into an abyss. Please listen carefully. Please spend more time listening than typing. If you have an issue with what I've said, I would love to talk to you about it. But don't say something ridiculous. I need to spend more time reading the Medu Netter than reading white translations. What? Don't embarrass yourself. Don't embarrass yourself. This is ridiculous. And if you look closely, you'll see that we read the text regularly. Regularly. By the way, no one reads the entire text in the Medu Netter. No one. Not even the most erudite scholars of the Medu Netter read, for example, the entire Reyu Pertimmeruengir in the Medu Netter. What we have done is we spot check what the Tomahu have said as they translate it. And we found some errors. They're not errors that are so egregious that they send the understanding of the text into an abyss. That's not what it does. But we have found errors. And if you were someone that was active in the shrine, I know that you are not, you would know that. You would know that. So let's continue. Let's continue. Okay, more from this person? Okay. By the way, if you really want to talk, send me an email. Let's talk. Let's talk. What you said was ridiculous, so you got an elbow. But if you really want to talk, send me an email at Jed, D-J-E-D, @shrineofma'at.org. Because, and you know the reason why I say I want to talk to you? Because the reality is I probably would have made the same statement you did until I read what I've read. So while I want to acknowledge that what you said is ridiculous, and Dr. Ben would have said it was ridiculous, Dr. Clark would have said it was ridiculous, the reality is you've made that comment because you have not read what I've read. That's why you made that comment. Because you have not read what I've read. And I am open and available to show you the sources so that you can have a better informed position. That's what I'm willing to do. So if you're really genuine and you want to figure out why this position that I am taking has been taken, you'll see. By the way, if you listen, you're going to hear more about why what Eric Mason said is ridiculous. Okay? So instead of doing the Christian rah-rah, listen and learn. Let's continue. So here are the Tomahu scholars that Dr. Mason referenced. We have Madame Helena Blavatsky, who was a Russian mystic and co-founder of the Theosophical Society. She actually co-founds it here in New York City, which is very interesting to me. She writes the book Isis Unveiled in 1875. Please look at the dates. Keep a mental note of the dates because this is important. How about Gerald Massey, who was an English poet and author of books on Kemet? He writes his first book on Kemet, the Book of the Beginnings in 1881. By the way, that's a typo. He doesn't write Isis Unveiled. That's Blavatsky. But he writes Book of the Beginnings first and writes other really, really important texts. Sometimes people today say that he doesn't give sources. I want you to understand, sometimes he does give sources, but he doesn't give it in the form that scholars today write books, because at the time he was writing them, that's not how people wrote books in any genre on any topic. They didn't give you MLA citing, APA citing. This is in the 1800s. It's really interesting that they say that, because all the Christian authors did the same thing at that time. In fact, the Christian authors today, many of them do nothing more than cite the Bible. Very interesting that they say that. You have to know what they're referring to understand its foolishness. And then Alvin Boyd Kuhn, who for some reason Dr. Eric Mason calls Kuhn. I don't know why Kuhn, but Kuhn is his name. He's an American theosophist. He got a PhD at Columbia, by the way, and he writes 150 books, including the book "Who Is This King of Glory?" the one that Dr. Mason is referring to. The reason why that one sticks in Dr. Mason's craw is because he questions whether there is a historical Jesus Christ. That's what that book is about. He says, well, who are they talking about? Let's look at the history and see whether we can find a historical Jesus. That is what the book is about. You should read it. I'm going to tell you, I've read Eric, I've read Gerald Massey, I've read Alvin Boyd Kuhn. Who is the King of Glory is a really, really critical work. Are they the reasons why I'm connected to the Kemetic tradition? No. Who would say that? Who would say that? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This begs the question, were there not, even though we had just come out of, in some instances, enslavement, were there not early Black folks that talked about the importance of Kemet? Were there not? By the way, those African American scholars who were leading us to Kemet, leading us to ancient Africa, were they reading these people? Let's look at who some of those folks are. And I want you to start with the misquote in the documentary. If you listen to it, you'll hear it very clearly. He says, this is Dr. John Henry Clark. He says, a lot of claims Blacks did not make until they saw the documents in works written by European authors. Not and works. Why would you read documents and works by European authors? He said that a lot of Blacks did not make, that a lot of claims Blacks did not make until they saw the documents in works written by European authors. That's a very important distinction. What he said is some of what he's read led him back to the sources. That's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. But they put on the screen and. This is a very important distinction, one that I think they ought to have made. Is there another question or comment there?
Yes. Did the Greeks create the Hermetic philosophy directly out of Kemet?
Yes. The answer is yes. The Greeks believe that Hermetic philosophy, by the way, you should understand they called it Hermetic philosophy because they looked at their symbol of Jehuti as Hermes. By the way, when you say Hermetic philosophy, you're really talking about the thing that happened under the Greeks and the Romans, okay? And later, even going all the way into the medieval period. So yes, they created it directly from what they had access to. Directly from what they had access to. I doubt they were able to read the text. What they were able to read is some texts that were likely translated. That's what they had. So I want you to understand that these traditions are old. And if you read the text, it is clear. It is clear where these traditions came from. Let's look at some of the early African scholars. Look at this person. George G.M. James, who writes Stolen Legacy. People have attacked George G.M. James and attacked him and attacked him and attacked him. They make him sound like he's just a brown guy with bad ideas. I want you to understand that once again, you're talking about a Black man, a person of African descent, that got a PhD from Columbia University in the early 1900s. Do you know how hard that must have been? It's hard. You'll struggle to find PhDs from Columbia in 2022. Do you know how difficult it must have been for him to get that? He becomes a professor of Greek and of logic. Does this sound like someone who doesn't know what he's referring to as he's talking about Greece and the debt they owe to the ancient Kemetic people? He's not just a guy sitting on his couch writing a book. He is the author of Stolen Legacy, which came out in 1954. 1954, 10 years after the work from Albert Boyn-Kuhn. I challenge you to find him quoting or citing anyone of those three authors that he's referring to. Dr. George G.M. James' work doesn't come from them. He's looking at ancient sources, and even sometimes, this is another thing that we do, sometimes we look at what the Greeks and the Romans said about where they got things from. We look at the generation of the Western world and its important institutions, including Christianity. This is what George G.M. James says. He says, the earliest theory of salvation is the Egyptian theory. The Egyptian mystery system had its most important object, the deification of man, and taught that the soul of man, if liberated from his bodily fetters, could enable him to become godlike and see the gods in his life and attain the beatific vision and hold communion with the immortals. That's what George G.M. James says about the spiritual traditions of ancient Kemet. Not from these three Tomahu authors. Where does Eric Mason get that from? Has he read George G.M. James? Let's continue. How about this author? So many people think that these books were written only by men. I'm sure that Eric Mason doesn't even realize that these early Black historians were writing these things. But look at this person, Drusilla Dungy Houston, a woman. Drusilla Dungy Houston, a writer, historian, and educator. She writes in 1926, The Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire. You ought to get a copy of it. 1926, that book is almost 100 years old. Does she cite Madame Blavatsky? No. Does she cite Gerald Massey? No. I don't think that she has read them when she writes her book. And her book is earlier than the book that is stuck in Dr. Mason's craw, Who is the King of Glory, which was, I believe, first published in 1944. Her book is earlier than that. What does she say? She says, Osiris had the power of awakening life out of death. He examined the soul and judged its deeds. Each spirit must pass before the judgment seat of Osiris. Taught, recorded the sentence of eternal doom. All the art and literature of Egypt was woven about her religion and in honor of her gods. 350 BC, Egypt believed that God became man incarnate. that these quotes are by people who are analyzing Kemet, not getting them from the words of Europeans of the Tomahu. How many of you have read Drusilla Dungy Houston? They're not citing the works of these folks, and perhaps one of the earliest to write. One of the earliest. We forget about this dynamo, Martin Delany, born in 1812, dies in 1885. Listen to his laudable list of accomplishments. He was an abolitionist, a journalist, a doctor, a soldier, and perhaps the first Black nationalist. By the way, he's the one that creates the phrase that we hear sometimes, Africa for the Africans. That was that is Martin Delany. He learned the Medu Neter. He might be the first African American to study the Medu Neter. Fascinating. He visits Liberia, and he even goes to Nigeria and tries to negotiate for land for African Americans to repatriate to. In the 1800s, that's what he did. He visits Kemet, and he writes several books, including the one that seems to reference ancient Kemet most clearly. It's called The Origin of the Races and Color. This is 1879. You should understand that this book is before two of the three Tomahu authors that Eric Mason says gave us the conscious community. He writes his book before two of the three write theirs. This is really bizarre. His comment is bizarre. Has he read Martin Delany? Do you know that Martin Delany has his own handwritten images of the Medu Neter in his book? Handwritten. Handwritten. Powerful. And I want you to know that when you read Martin Delany's book, he is clearly Christian. Very Christian. He filters things through his understanding of the Bible. Today we would say, Martin, why is everything the Bible? Someone who is so thoroughly directed and oriented from Christianity, who looks at Kemet, still says this. Listen to what he says. We must here beg to be born with when we record our conviction that the literature of the Israelites, both in the science of letters and government, also religion, was derived from the Africans. And they must have carried with them the civilization of those people and that country in their memorable exodus. As the highest encomium upon Moses in the scriptures is that he was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. This dude is a Christian. And he's saying they must have gotten everything from the Africans when they were there. What? He continues. We know of no other peoples or nations who had so high a conception and reverence for God as the Ethiopians and the Egyptians. Though they had many superstitions and also worshipped false gods, which were as matters of policy. Interesting that he puts that there. And whatever profound metaphysical conception and sincere religious reverence the Israelites may have entertained and disseminated regarding the true God, they obtained both during their Egyptian bondage and carried them from Egypt with them. This guy is as Christian as they come. Believes in a literal historical exodus. Of course, when you're writing in the 1800s, most people would still write that. But I want you to see that he is the one that says he is able to see the origins of Christianity in the Kemetic tradition. Did Martin Delany read Madame Blavatsky? No. Was Martin Delany even familiar with her? Probably not. Did Martin Delany read Gerald Massey? No, because he writes before that. Did Martin Delany read Alvin Boyd Kuhn? His book, which was released in 1944, is 60 years after Martin Delany passes. I want you all to understand something. And I want Dr. Eric Mason, who will see this, to understand something as well. I want you to understand that when you read the sources, when you read what the Greeks and Romans said about Kemet before Christianity is in existence, and you read the Kemetic sources themselves, you will see the nascent form of Christianity. And then when you see how diligently those early Christians were about speaking ill of the Kemetic traditions and the other more ancient traditions than their own, and how diligently they sought to destroy it, you can see nothing more than the vilest thievery. That is what you will see. Nothing more than the vilest thievery. And those of you who have been part of Kemetic Ascension have heard me read this one. So it seems like we believe that the Christian tradition has its origin in the Kemetic tradition because we were listening to 3 Tomahu mystics, and those mystics were being influenced by demons. I wonder if he would say the person who wrote this was influenced by a demon. Those of you who are part of Kemetic Ascension and who have been here regularly know what I'm about to read. Let me read this quote from a paper of this man. He says, the Egyptian mysteries of Isis and Osiris exerted considerable influence upon early Christianity. I'm going to read that sentence again. The Egyptian mysteries of Isis and Osiris, As and Asar as we would say, exerted considerable influence upon early Christianity. These 2 great Egyptian deities, whose worship passed into Europe, were revered not only in Rome, but in many other centers where Christian communities were growing up. Osiris and Isis, so the legend runs, were at one and the same time brother and sister, husband and wife. But Osiris was murdered, his coffin body being thrown into the Nile. And shortly afterward, the widowed and exiled Isis gave birth to a son, Horus. Meanwhile, the coffin was washed up on the Syrian coast and became miraculously lodged in a tree of a trunk. The tree afterward chanced to be cut down and made into a pillar in the palace of Byblos. And there Isis at length found it. After recovering Osiris's dismembered body, Isis restored him to life and installed him as king in the netherworld. Meanwhile, Horus, having grown to manhood, reigned on earth, later becoming the 3rd person in this great Egyptian trinity. This is what he sees. Who am I referring to? Those of you who are regular participants in Kemetic Ascension know. And of course, Jason Holmes definitely knows. Did he answer? Or is he waiting for others to answer? Who are we referring to?
It's from none other than Martin Luther King.
What'd you say?
He said that quote is from none other than Martin Luther King.
You got to understand, this quote is from Martin Luther the King, as my grandmother called him. Martin Luther the King. Written in 1949. Do you think he was reading Massey and Albert Boyne-Coon and Gerald Madame Blavatsky? He wrote this to get his theological master's degree, his master's degree of theology. That's why he wrote that as he went to Crozer Theological Seminary. When he becomes a minister, this is one of the papers he wrote to become a minister. If it was so clear to Martin Luther King, why is it not clear to you, Dr. Eric Mason? Or are you afraid about black booties in pews in black communities? That's what you're afraid of. That's what you're afraid of. And I get the fear. I want you to hear something. I am not saying that black folks ought not be Christian. But I am saying that once they know from whence the tradition came, once they know the machinations of the Tomahu in rendering the modern version of Christianity, once they know how diligently they sought to defile, to deface, and to murder, you can't be the same Christian. Why, how you walk in your church with the King James Bible? How do you do that? This treason to your ancestors. And for you to speak ill of Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, scholars way beyond your ilk, you must have lost your mind. Well, you know what? They're ancestors. But one of their students, Jabari Osaze, is here. And I'm prepared to contend with you on the things you have said about them and about me and about all of those people who are enamored, who are ensconced, who are practicing the traditions of ancient Africa. How dare you? Let's get it in. Let's get it in. And I want you to say, family, listen, when I did that debate, some people said, you should have ripped their hearts out. Why would I do that? Eric Mason is a decent guy. Confused, misdirected, decent guy. Those people in the church are good, decent people. They're my family. I'm not there to destroy them. I would hope that I would be able to instruct and teach them because I've spent my entire adult life studying this. If you read what I have read, you have to come to the analysis that I have come to. It is that stark. Why I told you, family, that when I realized I was no longer a Christian, it's not because I had a problem with the church that I was part of. Those people loved me, and they still do. Those aunties and grandmas and mothers and fathers and uncles that are in there, that supported me, that helped me become who I am. I had received an award for exemplary Christian attitude 6 months before I left the Christian church. 6 months. An award and a scholarship. Some of you may know that. And as I read, the final book I was reading was Christ Before Christianity. That was the final book I was reading. And as I got to the end, I couldn't put it down. As I got to the end, it was almost like someone turned on a light and I was for the first time able to see the room that I was in. I was so terrified that I literally dropped the book where it stood. I was standing in front of my little refrigerator. I could see where I was, my desk and my refrigerator. I was standing because I couldn't sit while I was reading it anymore. When I completed the book, I dropped it where it was and left the building. Didn't take my coat, didn't put on my boots, still had flip-flops on, and went into the winter environment of Ithaca, New York. There was snow on the ground. I trudged through snow with little more than flip-flopped feet. I must have been out there for about an hour. When I got back shivering, my roommate saw me and said, "You dropped your book." I said, "Uh-huh." He knew how important my books on African history were. So important that he couldn't just pick one up. He had to ask. So when he saw a book sitting on the ground, he said, "What happened?" "You dropped your book." I said, "Uh-huh." He said, "You knew you dropped it?" I said, "Uh-huh." He said, "Where were you?" I said, "I went outside for a walk." He said, "You didn't take your books?" I said, "Uh-uh." "You didn't take your boots?" "Where's your coat?" I said, "Right there." "You didn't take your coat?" "Uh-uh." And I remember him sitting on his bed and staring at me for what seemed like 10 minutes, because I know he was thinking, listen, this guy and I as roommates have been tussling and fighting, but he's still my friend. Is he cracking up? Should I be worried about him? Who should I? You know what? He probably even did go tell someone that he was worried about me. I would love to talk to him today and ask him what he thought about that. He sat there and he was worried about me. And I, not knowing what to do, didn't even look at him. I just sat there staring into the void of what was now the future in front of me. I was so scared. I didn't leave Christianity intentionally. The information pushed me out. I was ejected from that house. That was a scary period for me. Maybe I was losing it for a minute, until I was able to find the works of other authors, until I was able even to see Medu Neter 1 by Rao Nefer Amen that told me that there were people who were practicing the ancient African tradition coming from Kemet. That saved me. This was a very challenging time in my life. Family, I am telling you that when you read the sources, you come to the point where you realize that this tradition was taken and remixed into something else. When you read how we got this new tradition, while we were receiving lashes on our back and being raped by the Tomahu, you can come to no other conclusion that we must do something different. And once again, I'm not saying that that different has to be something other than Christianity. Some of us are going to be Christians, but you can't do anything the other folks are doing. That's a desecration to the memories of your ancestors. I want to say to you, family, today, we have a lot of work to do. We have to begin to talk to our community about that which we know with respect and love. As much as I'm annoyed by Dr. Eric Mason, like I said, he's a decent person. There's no animosity towards him. I'm upset about what he said, but there's no animosity towards him. He's trying to save his church. That's what he's doing. He's trying to save his church. I get it. Well, brother, maybe you should go the way of a Reverend Stallings and create a church that is connected to traditions, as he created the Shrine of Madonna. How about you do that? Family, we have a lot of work to do. I truly hope that you are prepared for it. I truly hope that you are prepared to defend our tradition. Not in ways that are strident or violent, but share with our people. I want to say lovingly that most of the Kemetic shrines that existed before the Shrine of Ma'at were private shrines. You could walk past them and not even know that they were there. No clue of what they were doing. The Shrine of Ma'at is a public shrine, perhaps the first public shrine. You must understand that we must save our people. This is of critical importance. I hope you're here with me. With that, I say, force in me greets the divine force in you. Let's get it in. I can only hear Anika clicking ardently at the keys. So I'm assuming there were a lot of things said. Anything that you want to put forward quickly that someone said?
There's it's so much. So Brother Philip Bain says, Jabari, I'm a Christian. I'm elated to be open to this information. I'm not afraid of receiving info that was hidden from me.
Powerful. Powerful, brother. That was, well, you know what? You are further ahead than I was, because I was terrified. I was terrified. I remember when I spoke to my girlfriend at the time, she said, those are demons, baby. Let's pray to Jesus. I said, demons? I remember thinking, oh, this relationship not gonna last. And it didn't. Oh my goodness. Other comments?
People just want to, I think they're just excited about the names of the books. People want to read more.
Mm-hmm.
They're very happy that you're giving out various books that they can.
And authors, yeah.
And authors.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want you to know that there were people that were talking about this stuff very early. It's critically important for us to recognize that when you actually take an unbiased view of this. By the way, oh, and you know what else I didn't do? What time is it? Yeah. let me say this. You heard him say that I argued, and I said it from my own mouth, that Heru was born often on December 25th. More on that later. I'm not going to even go into that today. More on that later. Now, as they say that, you know what this is? This is a red herring. You know what a red herring is? It's when you put something out there so that someone spends all their time running it down and you just attack them, knowing that what they put out, you're not going to be able to run down. That's the reason why the quote of me saying that Horus was often born on December 25th was so short, because you would hear what I said next. The date December 25th has no meaning whatsoever. The meaning is in the winter solstice. The winter solstice, which usually occurs on around December 21st, December 22nd. Hey Siri, when is the winter solstice 2022?
Winter solstice is on Wednesday, December 21st, 2022.
So you will know that that's usually when the winter solstice occurs. And during the solstice, this is when the sun stands still for 3 days. This is a metaphor. And it's giving us the least amount of life. The ancients said the sun had died. And then on or about the third day, the sun rises in a different point in the sky and gives us more light. The sun has been resurrected. That is where this comes from. And that's the reason why they're so uncomfortable with it. So yeah, it's true that you're not going to see that Jesus was born on December 25th in the oldest descriptions. But how do you now discard the fact that let's be clear. Billions of Christians have celebrated December 25th. Why? Billions. By the way, on my conversation in Sonnetter, I even showed that Dr. Eric Mason a few years ago had a Christmas tree on his pulpit. That means that they must have been celebrating it too. Very interesting. Family, we got a lot of work to do. More questions or comments? Yes.
St. Jason says that you asked if he learned about the MLK quote from you. He said he did.
I saw that. Dua for the recognition. I don't think most people are aware that Martin Luther King said this. They're not aware of it.
And Namra X says, I believe a lot of problems stem from names. Our people feel closer to King James than they do our own ancestors. What are your thoughts on the Shrine of Ma'at and names?
I think that people do feel closer to King James simply because, first of all, he's a king, so he must have been important, right? And that Bible was given to them usually by people that they love. Folks, we do the best of what we know at the time. And just think, we were coming out of enslavement. What else would we have had? Would you have expected that someone like Denmark Vesey, someone like Nat Turner would have had a copy of the Rayupert and Ruengare? Where would he have gotten it from? We had to use the best of what we could at the time to free ourselves. And so it's of critical importance for us to begin to speak these traditions again. And we should name the people who wrote them. That's the reason why you see me go through all of the hullabaloo saying, hey, is this Hunefer or is this Ani when we look at the image of the judgment scene? Because I think we ought to know the text. We ought to know the text. And we ought to have some ability to check the translations that we've received. By the way, no one reads the Bible in Demotic Greek. You know that almost all of the New Testament, I think all of the New Testament was written in Demotic Greek. Why do they say, Jabari, you can't read it in English? You're not reading it in Demotic Greek. I have more ability to read the Meta than you do to read Greek. Stop it. Stop it. It's just to me that these sorts of, you can look at the original language. When you look at the Rayupert and Ruengare that was translated by E.A. Wallace Budge, he gives you the glyphs, the transliteration, and the translation. You can check what he's saying. This is not a situation where we're confused by the Tomahu who mistranslated something. Stop. That's not what we've done. Is there more? Or can we close here? I think we'll close here. And we'll talk more about December 25th on December 25th, as we usually do. As we get closer to this period, we will talk about it. So as I said, the divine force in me greets the divine force in you. I'm so pleased that I'm on this journey with you. But who would have thought that it would have been an easy one? Who would have thought it would be an easy one? We have a lot of work to do. With that, Anika, can you come forward for our final affirmation?
Sure. I think you got the people riled up today.
Good. Good. Good.
Oh, wow. So it's a few announcements. I know that some of you have been asking about next year's trip to Kemet and Ghana. We are working out the dates and the prices. I've sent in information for quotes, so we're hoping to get that information shortly. So please stay tuned.
It's going to be close to August 1st.
Yeah, around the same
It may
time
be a
this
day
year.
or two shifting, but it'll be close to that.
Yeah. And then for those of you asking about initiation, yes, you can participate in initiation virtually. The applications will be available on our website in December, which is www.shrineofmaat.org. And the sessions will begin around March. So please just look out for our website around December and you'll see the applications and you can participate anywhere in the world. Okay. We have our equinox coming up, our vernal equinox. So that is always held on the day of, I believe it's Tuesday the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. We normally do it at 7 p.m. Just check that.
I looked it up and now I don't remember. It's the vernal or fall equinox.
Yes.
Yes, and wait, what'd I do? Oh, that's spring. Why did it come up with spring?
Vernal. You need the autumnal.
Autumnal, I'm sorry. Autumnal.
Autumnal.
I said the wrong thing.
Yeah. So autumnal equinox is the fall equinox.
Yes. The autumnal equinox is September 22nd.
Okay,
I thought it was the
Thursday,
22nd, not the 20th. Yeah.
So the
It's a Thursday.
22nd, it'll be at
Yeah.
7 p.m. It'll be outside in Central Park at the
At the
Tekken.
Tekken in Central Park.
So if you're in the area, please join us, 7 p.m. If not, we will be streaming it live on Facebook and on YouTube. So we'd love to see you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Family, continue to do the work. And please, as you approach people who are saying things that don't make sense, try to do it with love. I mean, obviously, they're going to say some things that are ridiculous sometimes. Some will. And it doesn't mean that you can't challenge them, but try to remind yourself that these are your family members. And so that is why we must do it in a way that shows myrrh as well.
So as we always do, let's end with our final affirmation, which will be one of the oldest prayers found in the Reu and Pert and Heru and Ger, the book of coming forth today from night. And we call it the Amasu. So if you could stand in the pose of adoration, we always start with the language of our ancestors and then we repeat it in English. So please repeat after me. Amasu and Panter.
Amasu and Panter.
Sauksu.
Sauksu.
Emitra.
Emitra.
And Panter.
And Panter.
Autu.
Autu.
Aura.
Aura.
Maketipa.
Maketipa.
Herura.
Herura.
Give yourself to the one most high.
Give yourself to the one most high.
Keep yourself daily for the divine.
Keep yourself daily for the divine.
And do it tomorrow.
And do it tomorrow.
Just as you did
it today.
Twelve winter.
Winter.
Thank you to the divine and thank you to all of you.
Folks, have a wonderful Sunday. Hopefully you're continuing to do your research, to study, to understand the traditions of our ancestors so that we can make them live once more. Shem and Ma'at, go forth in divine balance. We'll see you soon. Peace.